Welcome back, everyone. This is Spittin and Chattin. I'm Zane. I'm here with my boy Lane. How you doing?
I'm good, bro. I'm good, man. How you been?
Good, man. I'm
All
good.
right.
I know we pick a different day of the week, and so I'm ready to get this going. Got a nice little topic for the peeps today. You ready to get going?
Let's go. Let's go. Let's
All
go.
right. Well, we just gonna dive in. The topic of today is called OGs and the mentorship that's needed for those that are younger or even our age. Basically anybody to listen. And I guess we got to kind of start off with, how do you define OG? Because there's, a couple definitions out there.
Right, right, right.
Growing up, Lane, what was your understanding of what an OG was?
Man, well, I thought it was something, coming from street terminology. But, as
Yeah.
got older and really seeing just how much our community, needed, mentorship and guidance, especially our men, redefining that original gangsta and, giving it meaning with the older generation. And, that word older can kind of make you like, oh, it's like a gut punch. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not necessarily a number. It's maturity, experience, life experience that a lot of people can learn from.
Yeah, man, that's a great point right there because like you said, where we actually lived and grew up and stuff like that. The term, everyone has the understanding of like the street term, like you said,
Yeah.
an original gangster. But I think us being able to kind of redefine that to just the older generation, and like you said, it's not that the age is not really the issue. It's like how much understanding and life wisdom,
Mm.
do you have, and can you pass on? And
Yep.
again, we don't profess to like know everything and like have it all together. But as we're knocking on like 50,
Mm.
we got some things that we can at least share that can help others, and hopefully kind of shift that direction maybe if it's going in the wrong way, or if a person is especially the fellas, like if it's causing mental health or just trauma, as we kind of all discuss relationships. That's kind of that's why we have this little spin on it today. So OG is the topic, and just the older generation that can spread a little wisdom.
Yep.
So hopefully we can get a lot of comments and feedback as we go along with this particular topic.
Man, let me ask you a question just off the bat to get it going. In our communities and culture,
Mhm.
what areas do you think are lacking with, OGs or mentorship? Call it whatever you want. What areas in our
Yeah.
community are lacking?
Man, it's so many. We try to hit on them individually, but if I was
Hmm.
I was just to say off the bat, like what's lacking is just, I would say, father conversations with their children. Specifically as it pertains to really just all areas of life. We know finances is something that we could teach at a young age and break things down. As our kids, we start to give them like allowances, like how to balance and manage the little that they have, so when they grow up, they know how to save, they know how to invest, they know how basically
Hmm.
not to just blow it. you know
Right, right.
in school, you really don't have finance classes unless you're like in college, or you pursue that. You want to
Hmm.
pursue that, but at a grade school level, we didn't really learn about that. That wasn't
Right,
taught
right.
how to save your money, and so I think finances is a big topic. I also think like religion,
Mhm.
is a big topic. There's definitely some great things about beliefs, and you know, kind of how to put those things in practice. And if you have a belief in God, I think those things are great and should be
Hmm.
taught, your beliefs in the home. But I also think that we need to get the pastor worship and the bishop worship and the man worship kind of out of our house. Like the father should be the first kind of to introduce those things,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, to your family and your kids. And there's just so much. That's just a couple off the bat that come to mind. What are your thoughts?
Man, a lot of times I'll go through YouTube or TikTok or I'll just be out and about and you ever see that emoji face where the guy's got his hand over his face, like, oh my gosh.
Hmm.
There's some things that I see and it's like, man, how did we get here? How
Hmm.
do we embrace this kind of stuff? And I know sometimes people do things for clicks and stuff like that, but the overall behavior of some people, you could see that guidance is lacking
Yeah.
from, like you said, finances. You see guys who don't have nothing much, but they got a Mercedes Benz or a BMW, living in an apartment or living with their parents, or they got big old chains and diamonds, but can't manage their bank account, or they're broke within a week.
Yeah.
How they're treating women in our community. We have, man, our community, we have the biggest disrespect toward our women. And, I don't care what they do or how they present themselves. You don't see other people treating women in their culture like how we do ours.
Yeah.
And I know people point to rap music and that's one thing, but
Yeah.
it's people see that and people acknowledge that, other people, like, hey, this is how the African American community treats its women, and that's
Hmm.
something we got to own. But it starts with men
Hmm.
mentoring younger men from our culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes I just look at things and it's like, man, how do we get here? Even how we behave out in public and when we go
Man.
places,
Yeah.
it's just like you can sometimes tell when somebody has some guidance. I know we talked about this before with having a father presence. Sometimes when you shake a man's hand, it's
Hmm.
like you could tell that somebody teach him that.
Yeah.
Nobody's taught him that. It's just like
Right.
tying a tie. My grandfather taught me how to do that.
Right. Right.
I taught my boys that. I teach my boys, when you shake a man's hand, you look him in the eye, you give him a firm shake.
Yeah.
Some guys don't know that,
Yeah.
and the respect for other people and stuff is just gone out the door with our community, man. And it's sad, but some of it, the older generation, we have to pick up the slack. And
Hmm.
that may mean being uncomfortable, having some uncomfortable conversations with some other people. Sometimes at work, some people will ask me, hey, how did you get where your job or your career? And I went to school. And whenever you mention school, it's just like
Yeah.
and a lot of people from our community, they don't want to grind or work to achieve something. They want that quick access, quick money,
Yeah.
and they want it to happen overnight. And they want that $1 million check in the mail. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to work hard or grind to achieve something. School is what it is. You got to go to school if you want to be something in life. You need education, rather
Yeah.
if it's 2 years, 4 years, 8, whatever it is. Education
Yeah.
is important. But
Yeah.
we all know that number one statistic with men in our community is more black men in jail than there are in college. And part of that is a mentorship problem.
Yeah, man. I definitely agree with that. And part of what I've noticed, and I mean, it's been going on for years, but I guess back to the disrespect levels that are in the younger generations. I mean, it's like off the charts,
Yeah.
and you could just see it in basic things like the younger generation that may be, it may be their first or second job. They may be at a fast food joint, it may be at a restaurant, maybe at Walmart, wherever. But you can just tell like the customer service is not the same. It's like, when they're addressing older people in general, it's just not, you can just tell like they don't have the respect that we were taught to have
Mm-hmm.
growing up,
Yeah.
whether it's yes sir, yes ma'am,
Yeah.
or just the politeness that you give to someone just off the bat, not
Yeah.
even knowing them, but because that's just what we did. That's just what we were taught to do, is you give your elders respect, if
Yeah.
they're older than you. And man, I am not seeing that.
Mm-mm.
That's like rare.
Yeah.
The other, I think it was like a week ago, we had went through a drive-through, and it was refreshing that this younger kid, younger brother was like, very polite. He was like, yes sir. We was just ordering some snow cones, me
Mm-hmm.
and my daughter going through a drive-through, and it was just refreshing. And I returned there like a week later, because this is just one of our new things that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Return there a week later is another young lady, probably about the same. age as the young man, but she just took the money, you know what I'm saying? Didn't really like communicate back and forth or say
Right.
how's your day going or thank you or anything. It was just like it was just like a transaction. There was
Right.
no
Right.
personal touch,
Right.
or
No
just
appreciation. Yeah.
no appreciation of just even coming to the business. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm.
And we know that that's like you said, like where does that all start? Like we know that something's lacking. You know
Right.
what I mean in those younger years, and I think that's why this is a good topic, to really address because I see a lot of entitlement. You know,
Mm. Yeah.
even in the industry that I work in, it's like a lot of the younger people just feel like they supposed to get everything handed to them,
Yeah.
and that's not the real world. And,
Nah.
so they'll have some tantrums and little fits if something don't go their way. And, that just doesn't,
Yeah.
I have a question though, based on
Mm.
that, in your opinion, has the respect for the OG wisdom, when did you start to see it kind of drop off? Like if you were to kind of pinpoint just, maybe a decade or a year time frame, like when did you start to see it drop off?
Man, I mean, definitely when we were, you know, in our teenage, early 20s, and even through our 30s, you saw, we knew respect. And,
Hmm.
as guys, we have locker room talk with each other, and
Yeah.
that's not stuff that needs to be discussed. We
Right.
do it. I don't know why we talk like that amongst each other, but we do. But when somebody's mom or somebody's daughter or sister comes around or a woman, like they keep
Yep.
it quiet, like we knew boundaries.
Right.
And sometime through the course of how we became parents, and our kids going to school, I started seeing it. And
Hmm.
I did not see it from my boys, but sometimes I would hear stuff that they would pick up from school, and I'd
Hmm.
be like, what, you guys, that's how
Right.
it's being done now? And man, if you ever want to have a weird or entertaining conversation with your child, I know your daughter isn't there yet, but eventually she's going to get there. When you start talking about dating,
Mm.
and this is the, hey, when you have a son or you have a daughter and you're a father, hey, this is mentorship right here. This is where you need to lay down a good foundation with your child, or even if it's not your child. Sometimes they may have a question about the opposite sex and stuff like that. This is your job to mentor, to give guidance, to educate them. And
Yeah.
I know we talked about this on the show before, but this whole new generation of guys, they're so enamored with this simp thing,
Hmm.
where they don't want to kind of give no appreciation or love or respect to a woman for fear that she's just going to take it and give it to another guy. Well, hey, that's part of the game. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Hmm.
but open the door for a young lady,
Yeah.
pull out her chair, get her a rose or a flower every now and then,
Yeah.
and it was like, these are things, this is what you do. This is how you court or how you date a young lady. I don't care what age you are. This is how it's done. It's
Yeah.
not saying you got to be paying her bills and doing all that stuff. And if
Yep.
you see she's not the one, then you let it go.
Yeah.
And that's not a simp, because you show respect to a young lady you're dating. And when you break it down to them, it's like, would you want somebody to treat your sister or your mother like that?
Mm.
No, but that's somebody's sister. That's somebody's daughter that you're
Yeah.
treating like that. But our generation, they don't think of it like that. But like you
Yeah.
said, they're so entitled. It's remarkable how much they just expect to get back from any little thing, from relationships to jobs, everything. They're just expecting rewards without little work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just growing. It's getting out of
Yeah.
control, and we're seeing it in every area. And I think, what's your thoughts on? I mean, I think social media has a big part of this because our kids are just growing up with tablets and phones, and their interaction skills just suck. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm just being straightforward, they just suck.
Nah.
Like, don't know how to really communicate, don't really know how to, kind of work through even conflict. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have conflict in life, and it's all about how can you have a sensible conversation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Before throwing up hands or some artillery. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think because like you said, we want stuff fast. We being the younger generation, we talking about want stuff fast. And I think if you living on YT and X and Tic Tac and all that, if you living on that, right, then you're kind of living in a fantasy world where you just think that this end result of this person just having all the females or having all the watches and
Right.
the
Right.
cars and the jewels and the homes, like, man, that ain't normal. And most of them
Mm-mm.
people is faking and shaking,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's just not a normal life, but I
Yeah.
think that that's what their kind of view is, because that's all they're scrolling through and seeing, and they think that they just should have that, like you said,
Right.
with no work, you know what I mean, no communication skills. They just like feel entitled that they should be there and have those things. So what can we do, you know what I mean? This is one aspect of just like, putting something out there, but like in our day-to-day lives, what do you think we can do to kind of help that, curb that a
Man,
little bit?
realizing that, people are watching you, when you go to work, because, it may be in your profession and it may be in my profession where you're the one black guy, or you're being watched. So you're being looked at as an example. Well, yeah, we know you
Hmm.
clean cut, but are you a professional? How do you carry yourself?
Right.
Are you always doing this? And like you said, people are so timed into social media. I sometimes will see healthcare workers just like that
Hmm.
while they're doing patient care. And it's like, why do you
Ooh.
think you can do that
Right.
while you're taking care of somebody's loved one? And it's younger people, the younger generation. But to go back what you're talking about, when we were younger, there was no social media, but we listened to music that was, foul
Yeah.
language and stuff like that. You go by, one of my favorite rap groups was NWA, and it would
Hmm.
have the explicit lyrics sticker on the tape, on the CD, so you knew
Yeah.
what it
Yep.
was.
Right.
When we heard that stuff, we didn't think this is how life is. You say F the
Right.
police, you gun somebody down, and you grab somebody's butt. That's not real life.
Right.
And in the same way, like you said, with social media, this younger generation doesn't know that's not real life.
Yeah.
That chain probably isn't real, or
Right.
it's rental, or the person with that big house and those cars and that stuff.
Hmm.
And you have, there may be a few people, professional, entertainers, boxers, who live that lifestyle, but to keep it up,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not realistic.
Right.
But it is realistic for you to own a home, for you to have a family, to drive a decent car,
Yeah.
to not be a statistic.
Yeah.
That's realistic. You can achieve that. But
Yep.
people don't, that's not to this younger generation. Like you said, they want the get rich quick schemes.
Yeah.
Sometimes one of my boys, I want to get into, I forgot, he was trying to get into some kind of sales stuff. Well,
Mm.
realizing that takes work to get into.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like with cryptocurrency, because you could just buy some crypto, wake up, and the next day you're a millionaire. Well, even with that, it takes time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen overnight, but
Yeah.
the patience is lacking in a lot of our younger generation. Nobody's willing to work for anything. But like you said, social media, it just blinds them to reality.
Yeah. It's a sad state. One of the things I've been trying to do is, I mean, this is a small thing, but I've been
Mm,
trying to reward like good behavior in the young men
yeah.
when I see them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If I'm seeing like a polite man, and young
Mm,
man, or even a young girl, I just tell them keep up the good work. I try to make sure their tips are better than
yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like you're growing up, you're trying to do the right thing, you're trying to
Yeah.
work. You know what I mean? And you got good qualities that they need to know that they're different. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They need to know that they're set apart. So one of the things I've been trying to do is just trying to encourage that. So when I see
Mm,
it, I let them know, man, you're doing a great job, or thanks for the great service. You
right.
don't always get that, and I try to tip a little more than I normally do when I see young people that are that are trying to do the right things,
Hmm.
you know. So that's been kind of one of my ways of trying to reinforce like that the good behavior.
Yeah. And that's important to reinforce that. And I'll have those conversations with younger guys too, a lot of times at the gym, or just sometimes at work, or sometimes I'll just run into a younger guy at the store. I don't do
Mm-hmm.
Instacart. I like going to the store to buy my groceries. I know that sounds
Yeah,
strange, but that's what I do.
don't sound
And
strange.
right. But just have a conversation with a guy who's, getting the grocery carts, young brother just doing his thing, trying to stay on that right
Mm-hmm.
path because it's a lot easier to do the wrong thing.
Yeah,
And, you know, when, like you said, when you go out of your way to, yeah, that's those kids who you're interacting with, they're not your children.
right,
You don't have to do it, but
right.
it's the responsibility we have to do that.
Yeah,
And sometimes, a lot of guys, are from our generation who just like, man, it ain't my problem.
yeah.
It is your problem because eventually those worlds, your world will collide with theirs. And how many
Mm-hmm.
times do you see the statistics who are kids who get, shot or something happens to them? They were the good kid. They were the kid
Mm-hmm.
who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But the
Yeah.
bad kid who needed somebody to mentor him, that's how your worlds collide. So, or God forbid, your daughter bring home some
Mm-mm.
dude with cornrows and the
Mm-mm.
cornrows is hanging from his jaw.
Man, come on
Your
now.
worlds will collide. So
Yeah,
just don't think, yeah, it's not my problem, it's not my kids. Man, that's a bad way to think because other communities don't think like that. They
yeah,
embrace their youth and support them.
yeah, yeah. And that's why it's so important. Like, and your family, man, is like your first ministry, you
Yeah.
know. And that's just my opinion. But when you think about it, we've seen so many like videos now where the father may be sitting down with his daughter and her boyfriend, and he's trying to talk to the boyfriend, and the boyfriend gets disrespectful to
Mm.
the father.
Whoa.
And so it's like, and they almost go into blows. You know what I mean? Because the
Damn
father's
right.
like, "No, no, we're not gonna have this. We're not gonna have
Right.
this disrespect. This is my daughter." But this is like increasing, and I think that's why we need to make sure first our homes are straight. And like you said, when we're dealing with other younger men that are like out in our communities, it does become our responsibility. Of course, it's not like your direct family, but
Mm-hmm.
eventually your worlds are going to collide. Like the younger generation becomes the future leaders, the future entrepreneurs, the ones that are going to make
Right.
laws, whether they bad or good, right? So we do have influence on that, and if everybody just does their little part, you know what I mean, it does make a difference.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of the things we used to do a lot, as boys, is we used to play, and even to our younger adulthood, I ain't gonna front on that, but we used to play video games,
Yeah.
and these games are so realistic these days.
Whew.
You think about how much does that shape a young person's mind, because like we know, like we probably can't say too much on YouTube, but we know the increase in like violence that's happening at schools,
Yeah.
the bang bangs that's happening
Yeah.
at schools. Like how does a person get to that point, right? They're so desensitized because of the social media, the games they're playing, to where you can
Right.
go up in a school and do some things like that.
Man, like you said, they're so out of touch with reality. But at one point, those kids were crying for help, but nobody
Mm,
was there to serve them. Those
mm,
kids were wanting somebody to applaud them or give them a little tip or say, hey,
mm,
that was a good job. I like what you did.
mm.
Nobody was there for them to do that. And the it was a snowball effect. They didn't wake up and just say, yeah, I'm going to go do a massacre today. Nah, it just
Right,
started feeling like that just over and over, bad day after bad day. Nobody
yeah,
to talk to, nobody to relate to, nobody giving them guidance.
right,
And we know in our communities there's a lack of parents that are involved. And I think for particularly men, we're doing better with our children, but man, sometimes you gotta, point out and just look outside your house because, like I
yeah,
said, our worlds will collide. And that's another way that our worlds would collide at school.
Yep.
And, I was thinking about what you said about how we were growing up and everything. And I know whenever we left the house, we always make sure, we're, looking good, smooth. Even if we just go into the store, had your hair ready and stuff
Hmm.
like that. Man,
Yep.
you ever go somewhere and just see people from our culture just, and it happens a lot when you go to like Walmart or anywhere. Got the shower curtain on your head or whatever it is, or your pants hanging down.
He said shower curtain.
What shower cap? It looked like a curtain though. You know what I'm
That's a
saying?
good one.
Pajamas.
Man, come on.
Pajamas.
This is a.
Nobody mentored them. I
Who
know
else
your
does that?
I know your little girl. I know my little girl because
Nah,
they were both mentored by their moms. Do not go out that house without
nope.
their hair in order and looking right. My
Right.
daughter, if I tell her we're going to the gym right now, she's going to take 15 to 20 minutes to get herself together before she goes in that gym. And she's just
Yep.
going to go in the daycare. She ain't working out. But
Yep.
she was mentored to do that. And that ain't really like something, for a boy is different, but for girls, they moms mentor that. And where
Right.
are the women to mentor our black women to say, hey, get your what together?
Yeah. Yeah.
It may not be your daughter, but that's somebody who you can give guidance to.
Man, I know you just ruffled some feathers with that one,
Yeah, yeah.
but
It
but
needs to
so
be
be it.
said.
But
So
so
be it.
be it. So be it, man. That is
So
so.
be it.
That is, man. That is so unattractive. It's all kind of just not cute. Like, and you're right. You see that when you go to the store, and no other people do that. Like, there's stuff that's cool at home. Like, we understand that we wear.
Yeah,
We might have wave caps on at the
yeah,
house,
yeah.
but it's just like that's for the house. You know what I mean? You taking care of yourself at home, so when you do go outside, you're presentable. Like,
Yeah.
I know we ain't trying to impress everybody,
Nah.
but there's just a certain level of like self respect that we as a community should have. And
Yeah.
I get it. There may be sometimes you trying to preserve your hair for, okay, maybe you going out to an event that night. I get it. There may be rare occasions, but this is just becoming too much of a thing. Like, every time I go to the store, I'm seeing shower curtains and shower caps on people's heads.
Yeah.
Man, it's like, come on. It's just not cool. Like, I don't know where that has not always been the case. I know your
No.
grandma ain't taught
No.
you that. Your great grandma ain't taught you
No.
that.
No. And the hair thing, I understand it's a sensitive issue.
Yeah.
I understand that. And even myself, I used to, why is your hair like that? Man, I'm black. My mom is black. My dad is black. So what?
Right.
That's all you need to know. And I
Right.
know the hair thing from what we were taught from our culture is supposed to look like this or whatever. And that's a discussion maybe we need to have for a later show and really talk about that and really look at the historical context about that. But, coming up to where we are now, being presentable, I
Come
don't
on.
care where your culture is from, how systemic racism affected you. When you leave the house, you should be in order and look halfway decent.
Come on.
Halfway
Come
decent.
on. Come
Ain't
on.
nothing attractive about pajamas or a shower curtain on your head.
Ah, man, stay
Not,
home.
I know it's gonna ruffle some feathers, but
Yeah. Well.
oh well. But this is acknowledging we have a problem, and I'm not pointing the finger. I'm saying, hey, we
Yeah.
got to get it together. It's not saying
Yeah.
well, y'all do that over there. No, it's us.
Yeah.
But let's fix that.
Yeah.
And the whole hair thing, man, we need to talk about that one day, and that'll really piss some
Yeah.
people off. But sometimes when it's just that emoji face, just
Yeah. It is
and
what
be
it
the
is.
loudest ones.
It is what it is,
You
man.
think you have a shower curtain on your head, you kind of be quiet and kind of go get your milk and bread. No, you being the loudest one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. I remember this term back in the days. We used to say disgrace the race. That's exactly what that is. It's just, to me, it's like you could be missing out on so many opportunities that you don't even realize just based on how you came out the house. I ain't talking about
Right.
necessarily just, your dating life or, that aspect, but what if you have a job opportunity that you could be missing out on just by an interaction with somebody?
Right. Right.
You just never know the connections that you could be turning off somebody just because you came out the house. Like you just rolled out of bed. Like
Right.
you literally
Right.
rolled out of bed, got the keys, and just jumped in the car. And again, this ain't pointing the finger specifically at nobody. It's just, as a community, like these are the things that we need some do-overs in.
Yeah.
Like if we
Yeah.
could just roll back time, and this is an OG thing being passed down to, okay, we just got to do better. I
Yeah.
remember I remember the comedian Monique. You remember
Mm-hmm.
Monique?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
She got a lot of pushback when she started talking about, she called them young babies, or her babies, going down to Walmart dressed like that, having the shower cap on, and
Right.
she
Right.
she was like, man, this is just ridiculous. And we're coming back on and saying it is.
It is. Yeah.
It's not how we should be going out. Like, if just stay home till you get yourself together. Take a few more minutes. It don't take that much longer to tighten up a little bit or put on a hat,
Right.
something.
Right. Yeah. Man, I wrote
So
that down. What you said, disgrace the race. And as we're talking about this, we're saying OGs as in not just men, because it sounds sort of masculine, but
mhm.
let's let it be known we're talking men and women.
Older generation.
Older generation, men and women, need to give guidance to the younger generation.
Yeah.
And, am I saying if you older generation, go walk up to that young lady with that thing on her head and tell her about herself? No. There's a way to give guidance.
Right.
You just can't go up to nobody you don't know and say, let me tell you what you need to do. No,
That might not
show them
work out too
respect.
well.
Yeah,
Right.
that's going to go sideways. So you're going to be content probably,
Right.
but there's a way to give guidance to somebody. You encourage them a little bit, but then also give them some, hey, instead of doing that, do this.
Right.
Instead of get off the phone, throw a little water on your head or whatever you got to do, or find a good cap. Because that stuff passes down to generations.
Yeah.
And the fathers, the sons, the mothers, the daughters, they see how we interact and they'll just follow suit. And man, think about what you just said. One question I thought, how do we bring positive Black culture back? I mean, because when we growing up, there was no only negative images we had of Black culture was like hip hop. But we knew that wasn't real.
Yeah.
And those guys weren't in the news. They just made their money and then they went home. But how do we bring positive Black culture back? Because everything you see now is negative. But how do we bring that back?
I think that's a huge, I guess, overtaking. But I think it's just the little things. I think it's the little things of everybody, has a voice now. You know what I mean? In the past, it's like the airways were only allowed by certain people, right? If in order to have like a spot on TV, or to reach certain groups, but now we have like a voice. And I think the more that people use their voice to be positive instead of, bringing down people. And I think even negative content, like we got to be careful on just promoting the negative content and having more, like you said, dialogues on just being positive. It's a way that you can do things without like putting down people. It's a way that you can do things without, making people feel, like belittled, or disrespected. Right. So I think it's just the little things on positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Even if it's I think it's just starting with your own family, start with members of your family, or if you out and about, like you said, if I saw somebody with a shower cap on their head, I'm just gonna be like, I'll probably roll my eyes.
Right.
I'll probably
go the other way.
I'll have my own thoughts, but that's somebody's child. You know what I mean? And that's, somebody's grandchild. And I just think if we just have more little conversations, like pull up your pants, or tighten up before you go out the house, try to give more positive examples of success instead of just always the extreme,
Right.
the extreme is like the athletes, the ballers, you know what I'm
Right.
saying, the entertainers. That ain't real life to most of us. So I think we just got to point to more successful people in our communities that have regular, hard-working jobs, and how did they get there? You know what I mean?
Right.
Having those stories of how did they get there and how do they present themselves. So it's more of a realistic,
Right.
approach.
Man, one of the things I love doing, and I know I've taken you there, and it's one of my favorite places to go, it is a cigar lounge. And I know
Hmm.
it ain't the healthiest thing, but it's a place where kind of men could be men. And man, you'd be surprised how many just basic, ordinary heroes, I'm going to use that word, go
Hmm.
there to just kind of relax. There could be firefighters, they could be police officers, attorneys, judges, people who have regular jobs, who live nice lives, but
Hmm.
they don't look like the rapper or the athlete, but
Yeah.
man, they're doing just as well, but they had to work to achieve it. And
Yeah.
man, the conversations you can have with those people, they ain't got security around them, they're just regular people.
Yeah.
And the conversations, man, that I'll have with some of these people, man, are just mind-boggling, about, especially when we talk about things that are going on with our communities and cultures. One of the things, I know it's a hot topic, not so recent, was people going on that Carnival cruise.
Hmm.
And Carnival Cruise used to be like a little, you get your little cabin, go on to like a little 3-day cruise. And they had to set up rules on the cruise for people not to have boom boxes playing vulgar music around kids. But the boom boxes is on wheels. So you got your boom box playing Future,
Oh
Molly
man.
Percocet, Molly Percocet.
Oh.
And some families over there near the pool, and little Jimmy is like, "Mommy, what's a Molly? What's a Percocet?"
Hmm.
While you playing that, like, nobody wants to hear that.
Right.
So of
Right.
course this company had to set some rules and boundaries in place that they shouldn't have to do.
Right.
And
Right.
it's just like you said, being a positive image to our community. People forget that because you're being watched all the time. And I'll tell people in my profession, other black men and women, you're always being watched. Just know that and just learn
Yeah.
to accept it. You're
Yeah.
going to be watched. So watch what you say and how you carry yourself, because it defines this right here. How you act is how they define us.
Yeah.
And a lot of people forget that.
Yep.
It's just they don't think about why sometimes we do get profiled.
Right.
I'm not saying that that's the justifying reason to do it, but why do you
Right.
think?
Right. Yeah, I think if we could teach another piece of that, and it's probably a whole nother, I guess, segment,
Mm-hmm.
is we just gotta know when to turn stuff off. Like we,
Mm.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's just in us. Like we like to turn up. Like we like to have fun. You know what I mean? And and to a certain degree, there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. That's
Nah.
just that's just in us. Like we like to have a good time, but we got to know how to turn it off. Like it ain't every day you can just turn up. And I think that's what the younger generation has not learned, is you can't blend the two.
Mm-mm.
Like what you do at home, you don't do outside. You know what I mean? How you turn up at your house parties is
Yeah.
not how you turn up at a carnival cruise.
No.
You gonna
No.
be content. All of
Yeah.
you are gonna be content, and that's what I've said in the past. Like I'm just tired of being the brunt of the joke. You
Mm.
know what I mean, to the world, and
Yeah.
it's just like, when are we gonna learn that is not how we want to present ourselves?
Right. Yeah.
Like you said, why do we get so many I guess stereotypes, and it's not like we're helping ourselves in this. You know what I mean? We have to break the stereotypes for ourselves because we keep giving them content.
Right. Yeah. And man, I was thinking about one of my favorite heroes that I've kind of studied the history of her was
Hmm.
Harriet Tubman. I saw the movie. Man,
Yeah, yeah,
I love Harriet Tubman.
yeah,
I got some T-shirts,
yeah, yeah.
and I really want to break down, because I've heard this thing about her. I don't know if it's true or not, but I want to do some research on it. And if somebody's
Hmm.
watching the show, if they know any kind of solid research that's from some kind of educated background and not just somebody's opinion, where she felt I used to hear it that some got left behind.
Mm.
And in our community, that may happen. Some
Mm.
are being left behind and some might not get it. They
Yeah.
might not understand, hey, this is how you're supposed to function in society. This is
Yeah.
how you're supposed to present yourself.
Yeah.
And it's almost like when I thought about why she said that, some people, some of them, if she did that, wanted to be slaves.
Mm.
Their mind was just built in that mentality. And
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot of people like that that still just want to be slaves.
Mm.
Yeah, they're not being slaves like how our ancestors were, no doubt. But
Right.
they don't know how, they can't get out that mindset no matter how much mentoring you do, education, opportunities,
Yeah.
they still have that slave mindset. And you're
Yeah.
not going to be able to help them.
Yeah.
That's just how the numbers work.
Right. Yeah, that's a sad case, but very true. It's just the mentality of a lot of people still have, just that one
Yeah.
sided view,
Yeah.
that they can't get out, and like that hero that you mentioned, Harriet Tubman. You unfortunately can't take everybody, because they have to abide by the system and what's been set up for you
Mm.
to succeed, right? For you
Yep.
to get free, in a sense, in
Yeah.
that case, right? So if you're gonna be all loud and you're gonna want to do what you want to do, well, you're gonna get somebody killed. In that, I'm talking about in the Underground Railroad
Right.
scenario, right? So it's like things had to be communicated a certain way for the people that were able to receive it if they were going to follow that path to be free, right? And there's just some people that just they want to try to do it their own way. Like, what's she talking about? You know what I mean? Even though she was successful on multiple occasions and kept going back, when she could have just stopped and just been like, I'm cool, I'm already free myself.
Right.
She kept coming back to help others,
Yeah.
right? But she could only help those that wanted to really help themselves. But
Mm.
they still had to follow like the proven path to get out.
Yeah. Yeah. And just thinking about that, if you following her, hey, she's going to say, hey, we're going to go this way. You need to keep up.
Yep.
This is what we're going to eat. This is what we're going to drink. This is how we're going to do it. And
Yep.
that's it. It's my way or the highway. And those
Right.
people who did it, boom, those who weren't, she was like,
Yep.
man, it's unfortunate, but some people do not get it.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you have to separate yourself. And this is where some people need to understand mentorship too, where younger generation, and we knew this when we were kids, certain kids that were living that life, they were banging or dealing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we interact with them with school. But after that, it was like, man, I can't mess with you because you doing this.
Yeah.
And in the same way, I'm still like that now. Like, if I know people, I don't care if they're family members.
Yeah.
Man, if they can't like control their alcohol or
Yeah.
they present themselves in like a disrespectful, man, I can't.
Yeah. 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 And
Can't do it.
We've always had the ability to relate and communicate with. It didn't matter who you were.
Yep.
We crack jokes with you. But when it came to like just straight kicking it with somebody that was doing, certain things, is just like that. Like you said, we just separated ourselves.
Yeah.
And I thank God for that, because we don't know how that could have ended up. You know what I mean? But it's proven it only ends up a couple ways.
Yeah.
It only ends up a couple ways. And so who you surround yourself with, it really does rub off on you.
Man,
one way or
big
another.
time. Big time. Big
Yeah.
time. So, man, this was a good show today, man. A lot of good
Yeah.
topics.
Yeah.
Good discussion. If you're watching it, man, please leave your comments. Hey, rather they're good or bad, you disagree, you agree, leave your opinion. We
Yeah.
like to interact and know what you guys feel and think, and like and subscribe to the show if you can.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Keep it coming. Again, keep those comments and subscriptions coming in. We can't do this without you, but we appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next week. Spittin' and Chat.
Next week.